So our first question that I want to answer here is, what exactly is an object? What type of information can we store in them? And an object is basically a way for us to store some sort of complex data. And you can really think of an object kind of like a record. You have a single record that has multiple columns or attributes or properties that you can reference. And the way we store these values are normally in key value pairs. In the example here, I am making an object my object. It has key 1 and key 2, and both of those are holding value 1 and value 2 respectively. In this example, you can see that the value that's being stored is a string, but just note that when it comes to objects, they do not have to hold only strings. Again, think of this like a record type. A record type might have numbers, characters, dates, and in more complex scenarios, they might even have other objects. So in another case, I want to show you that values inside of an object can be a function. So in this case, my object has a property that it can access. In this case, it's just called do something. I know, pretty generic. But it is being assigned a function that's going to have some code to implement whatever that function is supposed to do. There is a shorthand that we can use whenever you want to define a function on an object. So I just want to point out that I have a key here called do something. There's a colon, and then I'm kind of providing the value or the functionality. Well, it turns out that we don't have to have these double quotes. They're optional when you are writing your JavaScript code. They're not optional if you are returning an object from a server. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But if I go to the next slide, you're going to see that I removed the double quotes, and I was able to define a function that's going to be assigned to this value, or to this key. And I can refine that even further and actually just say do something as a function, and then there's my little comma here at the end. So these two things are exactly the same. So it is possible. One thing I would recommend when you are writing JavaScript is make sure that you use the available shorthands that exist, but try not to sacrifice too much readability for lots of different shorthands. But I really like this one, especially when assigning objects. It just gets rid of a lot of the boilerplate. A lot of these anonymous function keywords kind of disappear. The other thing that I want to point out that we're going to take advantage of later in this class is it's also possible that a key can be yet another object. So here we have my object with a key called Subobject, which in turn its value is an object with all its subkeys and its subvalues. And the last thing that I want to mention before we start looking at some code is I want to talk a little bit about referencing the different values exist in an object, and just referencing an object in general.